If somebody tells you that you need to build up the strength of your hand, if you ever want to be able to play bar chords effortlessly and cleanly, just stop listening to them. They are a lazy teacher. And I'm going to prove this. I'm going to play this piece that I composed for you, a little bar chord study that you'll be able to use to practice your own bar chords this week. But I'm going to play it with my thumb completely removed from the back of the neck, so I can't use it to help squeeze that bar chord down, proving that the strength of your hand really is not a factor here. Okay? Check this out. All right, so I composed that little tune specifically as an exercise for you to practice your bar chords, and it's really effective. I'll explain why later, but you can download the tabs and sheet music for that completely free, link down below. So today we're gonna talk about 3 things that you need to practice to be able to play bar chords effortlessly and pain-free. The third one, though, just to give you a bit of a heads up, you're not gonna like. In fact, most people aren't willing to do it. But those who do, all of them master bar chords. It's only a matter of time. So the first thing is all about where you're getting your force for the bar chord. Most people will squeeze between their finger and their thumb, and that's where you get all this pain right here in your hand cramping up, and it makes bar chords unsustainable. What you want to do is use the pull of your arm instead. Drive your elbow back behind you using your bicep and your back muscles to pull the strings against the fret. As you can see, if you do this effectively, pulling with the muscles of your arm, you don't even need the thumb on the back of the neck. Now, of course, I do recommend still keeping your thumb resting on the back of the neck, but the point is you don't need it and the thumb can relax. This is huge because the muscles in your hand are very small, right? This muscle here controlling the thumb is small and it can't sustain the force that's required to play these bar chords, especially if you're playing a piece that has a lot of them. The bigger muscles in your arm and in your back can sustain that tension for longer periods without burning and getting really fatigued. So if you can master this feeling of pulling the strings against the frets with your arm and with your back, that's going to be the biggest game changer for your bar chords. Now, when you're doing that, as you're pulling back, you'll notice that the guitar is going to want to move. So you have to apply an equal counter pressure over here with your other arm. So as I'm pulling here, I'm pushing my right arm into the guitar. Basically, I'm giving the guitar a bear hug, right? Pulling both sides of the guitar in toward my body to be able to generate this force and then counter force. And that also works to help generate basically 2 directions of force to pull that bar chord into position. Meaning, as I'm pulling this way, I'm pulling the strings into the frets, and then as I'm pushing over here, I'm pushing the fret into the strings, really clamping down on that bar, giving me adequate force that's required to generate a clean bar with minimal effort, or at least the effort is going to these bigger muscles that can handle it. Now, the second thing that you're going to practice for bar chords is targeting. And this is more about mindfulness. On a case-by-case basis, for every bar chord that you play, you don't need equal pressure across all 6 strings. In general, you're going to have maybe 2 or 3 or maybe 4 strings that are falling under the bar, and then others you aren't playing at all, or they're covered by other fingers. So you can be mindful and efficient on where you're distributing your force across your finger to create the bar and to create pressure where it's needed, targeting. So this is where the piece that I compose is an effective bar chord study, because as you're looking at the different positions here, we're going to be targeting ultimately 4 different strings. So you can practice applying this in 4 different contexts, basically. So on measure 1, our first bar chord at the 5th fret, we're focusing on 2 strings, the E string and the G string. So as far as I'm concerned, all the other strings can sound terrible because I don't need them in the bar. So what I'm doing, and this takes some experimentation, which we'll be getting to, but what I'm doing here is I'm just focusing on those 2 points, the E string and the G string, or the 6th string and the 3rd string, making sure that I have enough pressure, making sure that my finger is at its flattest point on those 2 locations, and I'm not worried about feeling pressure on the other strings. So as you're playing around with this first measure, you might need to adjust your finger again to find the flattest position of your finger for those 2 targeted areas, making sure that the string isn't falling in one of these creases of your fingers. That's huge. So you might need to adjust your finger up a tiny bit or down to make sure nothing's falling in a crease and you're getting equal distribution of pressure across those 2 strings. Then if we go to measure 2, we've got a different scenario. Still the low E string, but now I need to target the high E string, the 1st string. And so I'm feeling more pressure down at the base of my finger to flatten out there. And again, I don't care how the B string sounds. Happens to sound good, that's fine. I don't care how the G string, there's a little buzz. I don't care how the D string sounds. I'm not worried about pressure there. So this is all about efficiency. I'm gonna be much more relaxed if I'm not worried about clamping down my entire finger across all 6 strings when I don't need to. Measure 3, we've got yet another scenario. So now I'm targeting, again, the low E, but now the B string, the 2nd string. So be mindful, again, of those creases. Raise or lower your finger. Adjust how flat your finger is. You might need to bring your knuckle out a little bit to try to really flatten out the area of your finger that's covering the B string. You might want to try to roll over a little bit to the side of your finger. There's lots of room to kind of adjust your hand position to find that optimal sweet spot for that specific targeted area. And finally, the 3rd thing that you need to do to master bar chords is to be willing to experiment. Be willing to wrestle with each bar chord that you come across consistently until you find that feeling, until the concepts that I talked about in today's video, the pulling of your arm, the adjusting of your hand position and flattening your finger to target the specific strings that you need, until you can feel that for yourself and it clicks. You've got to be willing to sit in that discomfort, that experimentation, that wrestling with that bar chord to get the feeling down. Because the reality is, most people never master bar chords because they're not willing to sit in that discomfort of that experimentation, because it's not fun practice. It's not fun to practice bar chords and to try to get that feeling down, to try to minimize that pain that you're feeling. But if you are willing, I promise you, you will master the bar chords. So my challenge to you is that for the next 30 days, you make this your main focus. If bar chords have been something you've been avoiding, something that's been causing you pain for months or years, you find a piece that you want to play, but it's got some bar chords in it, so you have to put it aside. If that's you, make this your primary focus for the next 30 days, and all you have to do is be willing to experiment with the concepts that I taught in this video, using the study that I'm giving you that you can download for free, for 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day is all it takes. Now, Again, most people aren't willing to do this because that 10 minutes will feel like an eternity because it's not fun practice. But if you are willing to do that, to try to find the feeling, how to flatten out the finger the right way, how to adjust it so that you're targeting just the right strings, how to use the pull of your arm and the counterweight of this arm so that you don't have to squeeze with your thumb, just sit there and experiment until you find that feeling that I'm describing. Do that for 30 days, 10 minutes a day, and I promise you, you will never have to worry about bar chords again. If this was helpful, please leave a like on this video and leave me a comment. I'm curious, I want to hear what's the worst advice you've ever heard about bar chords, or what's the best advice you've ever heard, all right? And if you're willing to commit to this next 30 days of bar chord experimentation, let me know in a comment. Again, you can download the tabs for this little study for free down below. And if you want to go deeper with me, I want to invite you to join my flagship guitar course, Fingerstyle Journey. Will absolutely transform your playing together, and it helps support this channel. You can check that out, learn more, link down below. All right, thank you so much for watching till the end. I appreciate you. I see you. I'll see you in the next one.